Ah, it feels so good to be back home. So what I've got for you today is apparently a Terran versus Protoss where, okay, our Protoss here starts off the game by, well, actually I fast forwarded through the first 2 minutes of the game, where our Protoss player is starting this game off by recalling the probe that he scouted with back towards the main. Playing here with the blue Protoss pieces, we have one of the very best, and his name is herO. His opponent, likewise also one of the greats, playing right here with the red Terran SCVs in the opposite corner of Gresven. We're looking inside of the main of ByuN. Alrighty, now it feels good to be back home. This is my very first cast that I'm doing from home in like a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks or so. It's been a little while. So the videos that have been going up on my channel automatically, I mean, you've watched every single one of them, right? You guys never skip a minute of any video, right? Anyways, they were prepared in advance because I actually just flew home yesterday from a StarCraft 2 tournament. I think I must have spent like 10, maybe 11 hours or so on a plane yesterday. Time zones are a little bit funny, so I'm not exactly sure, but anyhow, it doesn't really matter all too much. I noticed that my voice feels a little bit finicky today, and I think that's probably because of the, you know, the airplane air. It doesn't sound quite the same in my ears as it usually does, but might not be that noticeable actually on video. Either way, had an absolute blast at Gamers 8, fantastic tournament. But it always does feel nice to be back home and, you know, get back to my regular routine. It's gonna be a Stargate opener right here from herO, not opting to go for the quadruple blink start, which he's very fond of, not even going for the triple blink start either. Instead, he's gonna be going for a much slower approach, and the same can be said right here for ByuN, who has decided to go for a triple command center opener. So this is all very, very macro focused. Phoenixes, of course, are great at buying time, but generally speaking, you're not gonna be able to win the game with them straight up. He does need to see what's going on here. There's a Cyclone waiting on the perimeter. Okay. For now, he needs to wait until that lock-on is gone, and you don't really want to dive in and lose a Phoenix at this point either, so herO is going to be forced to play this a little bit safer here for the time being. Are we going to go straight into a Robo Bay? No, we're going to be going straight into a Immortal here instead, but once he figures out what he's playing against, I am expecting a third Nexus here as well in just a little bit. For the time being, though, nice start right here for ByuN. Playing a very greedy game, and it seems to me like he's getting away with it. At this point, though, herO does see the timing right there on the second barracks. So this could still be a misread, I suppose, where he assumes that this is like not the second barracks, but for example, the third or the fourth. But yeah, eventually, all of these structures are going to be coming up, and we have both players setting themselves up for a nice little macro game. Robo Bay on the back of this as well for herO. And I would really like to see a third Nexus right about right now, because with the third Mule hitting the battlefield here, life is going to be pretty great for ByuN. He's going to be able to mine very, very rapidly here now that these units are starting to return their resources. And of course, in the earlier stages of TVP, well, Terrans like to play pretty passively, and it looks like this very greedy build right here, ByuN indeed did manage to get away with it. So for the time being, it's okay because of the work account here, but you need to be very careful here as Protoss. That Chrono Boost probably should be going down on the Nexus as often as possible. Alrighty. Yeah, at this point, I mean, herO still hasn't seen the third command center, but I can imagine that he's put one and one together right now, and he must have figured out what he's playing against. Now, normally we see a timing attack in this matchup with the +1 infantry weapons together with the stim pack, and then eventually the combat shields as well. Thing is, though, normally you hit there right before, like you hit on the other side of the map, or right before those Colossi really become a problem. But you can see now the combat shields upgrade is started up as the first Colossus is about halfway done here, so I don't think we're really going to be able to go for a big parade push through the center of the map when those upgrades finish up, because you're going to be met head-on by a very powerful Protoss army that will have a relatively easy time. herO could definitely try and see if he can, well, deny the opponent's low ground expansion here, but it's always a bit scary too, right? Because at this point in the game, yeah, you've got some powerful units, but you don't really have that many. And with a little bit of miss micro, if for example you're just not positioning your units properly, or you miss a force field or whatever, right, it's very easy to accidentally lose. Especially when you go for a sentry-based defense squad over here, you really want to just sit back for a bit longer and accumulate some energy. So passive early game here from both players as they are just happily macroing up. Marines maneuvering around the map. At this point, well, Jimmy over here is going to pay with his life, but at the very least he scouted exactly what's happening, and at this point ByuN indeed confirms that it's going to be that Marine, that Phoenix into Colossus army that he very much so needs. Okay. Well, it's the unit composition that herO needs anyways. think that ByuN is also going to be pretty happy, though, playing against that. So one thing we actually saw at Gamers 8 in the later stages of Terran versus Protoss, and I was wondering if that was like the very first time that we've ever seen it. So this particular match was played before Gamers 8. One strategy that we saw, I believe, from Classic was a heavy focus on robo facilities. So the reason why I bring it up is because there was a game at Gamers 8 that was played that featured Classic going up against ByuN. And Classic in that game, in the late game, quite literally, I believe he went 6 robotics facility disruptor production. So he went mass disruptor production. And it wasn't really something that I've seen all too often before. It looked incredibly powerful though, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's going to become the standard here moving forward. Now this game was played relatively shortly before G8, and I wonder if that's something that herO has been messing around with as well. One of the transitions, of course, that's very popular in the later stages of the game is that Stargate style, but I wouldn't mind seeing him drop down a bunch of robo facilities as well and just mixing in more and more disruptors, because let's just say that in that game against Classic, ByuN seemed to be struggling against it quite a bit. Now, of course, we're still a while away from that transition, but curious to see if that's something that herO is going to be messing around with. The Ghosts are already hitting the battlefield once again. Very popular unit in basically every matchup right now, other than Terran versus Terran. In Terran versus Protoss, of course, they're very good at just blanketing this Protoss army with EMPs, and the EMP basically removes a lot of the shields as well as the energy out of a lot of those Protoss units. And since every single Protoss unit has shield, it's always nice to every single Protoss unit rather has shields. There you go. I got my plurals all mixed up there. Anyways, he's gonna be able to get a lot of value out of that Ghost, assuming he manages to land it correctly. Catching up on a little bit of sleep as well, by the way. Didn't really sleep as much as I normally do. So if I'm gonna be derping out more so than per usual over the next couple of casts that I'll do, if you notice that over the next few days, that's because I'm probably a little bit sleep deprived, but probably shouldn't take too long. Maybe a few days. Maybe more? I don't know. I have noticed as I'm getting older that it takes me a little bit longer to get back into the swing of things. I feel like back in the day, as in like 5 years ago, one good night of sleep, instantly back to perfection, right? And instantly I felt like I was feeling really good again. I notice these days, whenever, you know, that's the case. I don't know. Nice lockout over here. It takes me a little bit longer to, yeah, feel 100% again. Is that just gonna get worse with age, guys? Is this what it's gonna be? Anyways, one of the Phoenixes here, I mean, it got sniped down. The other one over here apparently decided to overstay its welcome as well. So another one falls. 2 Phoenixes going down, but that's really the only first 2 units that, other than that one probe from earlier, that herO has lost. Nice force field over here as well. Okay, nice picking off on that Ghost. Can he really get much done? Well, he may very well need to push forward. Now, he already decided to recall back home. As he saw that ByuN apparently was ready to engage him on the left side of the map. Okay. Both players once again ready to sit back for a little bit longer, it looks like. I mean, maybe herO wants to go on the offensive here, and he does get another Ghost. All of these traits are nice, but pushing into sieged up tanks is always very, very tricky. This is actually one of the most passive early games of TVP I've seen recently, right? We're now 10 minutes into it, and that was really like the first proper engagement. But it was mostly just ByuN trying to run away. Okay. Phoenix is here. Yeah, not really too fond of them. I mean, they're also not that useful anymore at this stage in the game, so I can't really blame him. But they're mostly just a stepping stone to get towards that robo-based army instead. And I guess they have fulfilled their function, despite the fact that they did very, very little. Interestingly enough, herO has decided to go for this base right over here. So, not the one in the center, not even the one right over here on the left either. Instead, he's almost looking to become neighbors with his opponent. So, very commonly, of course, we have the planetary fortress over here, as well as a planetary fortress over there. I guess ByuN wants to, yeah, be as far away from his opponent as possible, but herO's like, bro, why don't we live together? Let's just share a mineral line. That might be a little bit too passionate. I'm not exactly sure what the rules are about sharing a mineral line, but, well, those EMPs are certainly very lethal. Okay. Additional command centers coming up. We've got ourselves the fusion core right now building here as well for ByuN. For all intents and purposes, this is basically a straight tier 3 rush for both players, right? We've got Dark Templar coming up right now. This was very quick Colossus disruptor production as well here from herO. Both of them did make a Stalker and Marine-based army, right? So like an early game-based unit composition, but careful with that. None of it is all too impressive. Now this is a nice jump though. Yeah, beautifully done. Although a disruptor did actually end up detonating there. Normally when you see ByuN make a decision like that, you're always just leaning towards him making the right call. But that was actually a little bit overly zealous. I think he could have maybe sniped that disruptor a little bit quicker. Slight misclick maybe, making it difficult for him to actually keep that army alive. But we're getting to the point where we're already starting to replace a lot of SCVs with mules, and we're ready to replace a bunch of the Marines and Marauders as well with just a whole lot of Liberators. Liberators are an amazing anti-ground unit for Terran. And when there's enough of them available, it's going to be difficult for Protoss to get much done with their ground army. So usually the response against Mass Liberator, which at the very least seems to be what we're going for. There we go. Yeah, the Advanced Ballistics upgrade coming up. We have the additional starports here as well. Normally the reaction from Protoss when they're going up against Mass Liberator is for Protoss to also go into Mass Air, because there's not really a whole lot that they can do against the Mass Liberator style, other than, of course, blinking the Stalkers underneath, and being aggressive is certainly one of the ways to get it done, but yeah, normally herO is a very aggressive player. Maybe he's just not really feeling that style right now. I know that, again, Classic has been finding a lot of success playing a bit of a slower game lately, so maybe the other Protoss players, like for example Creator and now also herO apparently, maybe they're taking a page out of his book, out of Classic's book. Okay, we're hunting down some disruptors once again. Last time around that didn't go as smoothly as we would have liked to, but ByuN is going to be able to run away in this particular engagement. A little bit of a zealot run by over here on the right side, but I mean, nice attempt I suppose, but not really achieving all too much. Alright, at this point the fleet beacon together with the Stargate transition gets spotted as well. +1 air attacks have already been researching for a little while here for ByuN. And yeah, we're already at 6 Liberators. I actually wouldn't mind seeing even more than that, to be honest. Yeah. Oh, careful. Okay. So for a second he was gonna, well, destroy all of his own zealots there. Not quite ideal. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing some more Liberator production. So we're going into tons of additional command centers, though. Yeah, so he's already got 8 orbital commands done. He's got a planetary fortress. And he's got 1 command center that's now morphing into... And he's got 4 more on the production tab, too. Okay. It's always a little bit risky, right? So you can see right now that the resource count here is in favor of herO. But that's mostly just because ByuN has just invested a ton of his money into getting about a 10 command center advantage. Okay. Trying his very best to bolt to the, Terran army here, but the siege tanks are having a good time. Pretty good backing up as well by ByuN, who's now going to be going into the tactical nuke research. And I really don't mind that idea all too much. So we've got a lot of static defense over here set up for herO, who wants to be neighbors, but he does have some very scary dogs apparently out front here, you know, roaming his front yard, trying to make sure that he does not allow the Terran to get too close, but this is starting to be a little bit scary. The air transition here is relatively slow from our Protoss player, who... I'm gonna have to back up, sorry. What in the world just happened here? Did that army just get sliced up against these ninjas over here? I think they did get sliced up, yeah. Here we go. Yeah, you don't pay attention for about half a second. All of those units do get absolutely demolished. Anyways, the Stargate transition here is relatively slow from our Protoss player, so I really like the Viking spot here. So ByuN scanned his opponent's main base. He saw when those units were likely going to be coming out, so the Tempests are indeed here, the name of the game for Protoss. He's got a lot of static defense out front as well, but he's already prepared by making a ton of Vikings. So at this point we're talking 7 Vikings, but he's making 6 of them at once. I like the fact that he started producing those at the correct moment here, because if Protoss decides to get a little bit overly eager with, for example, their Tempest, it doesn't really take that many of those Viking waves either to be able to, like, 1 or maybe even 2-shot those Tempest. 12 SCVs, though, have gone down. This is a nice position, but it needs to be careful, yeah. So we're basically just going mass Sky Terran here with Ghosts, going up against a whole lot of Protoss flyers as well. He's only got 2 Stargates at this point, though, so he might want to add on a few more. But here's those Vikings showing up. We're gonna probably need at least a few more siege tanks as well to really force the issue. Because, of course, Liberators can't shoot at structures. Yeah, when the Liberators can inch forward like this, we might need to have a siege tank on the back of it too to, like, start shelling away at some of the actual static defense right here from herO. The Dark Templar squad, though, getting quite a bit of damage done. Of course, these are very expensive units, so you can't really treat them like you normally do Zealots, for example, right? Where you just sort of throw them away. Liberator thinking about going around the side, but there's still a Tempest up in the air. 2 additional Stargates coming up as well here for Protoss, so he's certainly not done yet. More and more bases now being acquired on the left side of the map, so I actually quite like this idea here from herO. So one thing we very commonly see, especially in the Zerg versus Terran matchup, but it's become more and more popular as well in Protoss versus Terran, is a split map scenario on Gressvin. There's the tactical nuke, by the way, flying across. Okay, where's the ghost? One of the ghosts is over here. I think the ghost that was casting a nuke has already gotten picked off, though. So in a split map scenario, Terran will usually try and mine this base out eventually. And by herO taking this base very early, he's basically saying, yo, if you want to create a split map scenario, that's fine and all. If the game is gonna go the distance, but I have already nibbled away about half of the minerals available in that base, maybe you can shut me down here eventually, but I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a few more probes transferred on over to this location. A forward transfer like that is usually very powerful. Dark Templar once again coming back in for more. They try to snipe that missile turret, which is of course the detector, but it's not achieving that much. The Viking count is massive though. Yeah, we have 20 Vikings right now. That's because ByuN was starting to produce the units at the right time. Another tactical nuke. Ready to land on top of all of this static defense, and this time around it may very well happen, yeah. herO, ooh, careful now, mate. Accidentally rallying those units the wrong direction, but he's not gonna get punished for it. Anyways, he's given up on that position, and he is ready to start engaging in a different location. 3 additional Ghost Academies coming right up. The only reason to make more Ghost Academies is if you want to go for mass tactical nuke. Okay. Tactical nukes have a chance to end the game. Ooh, is that... What? That's gotta be a misclick, no? I mean, he's got a lot of money in the bank. He can use it as a wall. Oh, he's using it for like a battery overcharge? Is that what we're doing? Okay, yeah, so that's also similar to the reason as to why he had that base over here, right? I think this is basically herO saying, yo, I am ready to play the long game. I know how these games work out. If you mine your side of the map, I'm kind of screwed. So if I can make it so that you are never going to be able to mine your side of the map entirely, because I've already, well, nibbled away at some of those mineral fields myself, and I can mine out my side on top of that too, I should be at an advantage. And I really do like that, yeah. This Terran army is not particularly mobile. Protoss a little bit more so, but okay. It might be a little bit overly ambitious. Lovely catch right here, of course, by ByuN, who's just starting to break through all of this before it really gets underway. And this is exactly what he was trying to avoid. At this point, of course, herO, well, with his proxy nexus over here, does get spotted. I would imagine that ByuN is likely going to be taking this base over here in just a moment. So we're now sitting at, yeah, 13 orbital commands. So when I said a dozen earlier, I actually thought I was exaggerating, but turns out I'm not. Big recoil over here, trying to get out of here. Difficult to run away from this Terran bull, and the problem is now, yeah, maybe you can go in for the counterattack. But that does mean that this position here at the bottom of the map is going to have to be given up. Although I guess it wasn't really that established yet, right? So that Nexus ends up falling, some of the static defense will be cleaned up as well. But at the same time, okay, herO is going to go on the offensive over here. Zerg players and Protoss players alike getting a little bit tricksy against Terrans on this particular map lately. The Vikings now, though, starting to hunt down so many of those units. That's another Tempest going down as well. Lovely play right there by ByuN, of course, who's now gonna add on more and more tactical nukes. Yeah, you can see that Terrans Terrans really seem to be dominating this map quite a bit lately, right? Where Protoss and Zergs are really desperately trying to make sure that the game does not go in the ordinary direction. Can we maybe blow it up with the disruptors? We certainly could have tried, but it's not gonna happen. Anyways, Protoss and Zerg, walking around the map in a pretty peculiar way here. And I like what herO is doing. I think it's very clever. But he also needs to be careful he doesn't get too carried away with all this fanciness, right? Because in the end, he's lost, significantly more minerals than his opponent up to this point. And that's mostly just due to the fact that he's been putting out static defense everywhere. Nexus over here gets built right underneath where that command center was gonna settle itself. 5 probes end up going down, but now there's some detection once again available over here in this area of the map. ByuN slowly pushing that static defense forward, making another command center, landing mules over here. Protoss though, finding maybe a bit of an angle over here. This is not really a Protoss army that requires that many of those Vikings either, because we do have a lot of them right now. 20 Vikings is amazing. They can still land, of course, as well to deal damage to ground units, but against fully upgraded Protoss ground, they are definitely not the unit of choice. Lovely little counter-attack here as well. That's going to immediately trigger that entire Terran bolt to go further north. Command center over here gets pushed back. We have a few of those adepts right now coming out. I feel like we haven't really seen those throughout this game, but yeah, they're obviously still helpful. And in the meantime, yeah, they're really opening up the door over here for Protoss to start engaging here at the bottom. And this is really lovely positioning here from herO, forcing his opponent to split up their army, right? So ByuN really wants to move around this map in one big ball with all of his troops. But with the way that herO has been splitting up his units, it's very difficult for ByuN to actually go ahead and do so. Purification Nova over there trying to get some work done. Okay. That's a lot of disruptor rolls. How many ROAs are we sitting on? Just the 2, yeah. So this would be a pretty good moment, I think, for herO to start adding on even more robo facilities if he wants to. So what I was bringing up earlier, apparently that's Classic mostly who's been experimenting with that, and it does seem incredibly scary. I mean, in a game like this, right, when your opponent is super Liberator focused, it also doesn't really make that much sense, but you're never gonna go full Liberator, I guess. You could go full Sky Terran if you also mix in battle cruisers, maybe a bunch of Ravens, but not quite the strategy that ByuN decides to go for. Vikings here in a little bit of a skirmish as well, as they now manage to pick off all of the Tempest, but also all of the Colossi. Most of the Vikings right now, though, are at low hit points. The Stalkers managed to blink underneath, and immediately new Colossi start up. I actually don't mind this engagement right here for Protoss whatsoever. He just ended up losing a ton of troops, sure. A lot of his expensive heavy hitters, normally the units you really want to try and keep alive, but he ended up sniping basically all of that Terran flying army. Still a couple Liberators over here being an absolute nuisance. Carriers right now start up too, yeah. So herO's saying, yo, if you're gonna give me about 20 Vikings, I'm gonna go ahead and transition towards the unit comp that I wanted to go for earlier, because what are the odds of you remaking all of those Vikings when you're playing against a Stalker, Immortal, Disruptor-based army? Okay, once again, we managed to get underneath. Lovely play right here from herO. Okay, he's gonna have to be backing off over here, though, because this is a very scary Terran army. Hallucinated Colossus here to provide some high ground vision as well. Love to see it. And ByuN actually needs to be careful. Like, yeah, he's got 1 million command centers. Well, he doesn't have as many as he once did, but he still has about, what is it? 13? He's got 13 command centers here, which is not to be underestimated, but he doesn't have that much money in the bank. Those Liberators over here, though, being a massive nuisance, right? So I think the carriers, they're going to be heading down south to try and get rid of that. Careful, careful, careful. He's not paying attention. Oh, my lord. Okay, this is a problem here. Purification Novas are going to connect here, but at least some decent splits coming out of ByuN. That army should not have gone down like that. Luckily, though, here for herO, he does, excuse me, a little bit of money in the bank to remake some of those lost units, too. Big immediate warping of Zealots is what I saw on the production tab, and we'll have to see if it decides to continue warping in more and more of those gateway units as well. ByuN now managing to secure another expansion here up north, and he's mining it with basically only mules. So this is a base that really wants to be denied here. Okay, Immortals coming in from the bottom. Colossi shooting a lot of lasers as well. Looks like the Stalkers have found a small little angle where those Liberators are not putting out their anti-ground zones. I think the carriers are going to be needed here. Yeah, the carriers are going to be showing up. This base is critical for herO to deny. If he manages to deny this base, it's effectively the lifeline here. One downside of all of that mule mining here that ByuN has been doing is that those mineral fields, they run out very quickly too. Careful though. We may very well need another couple rounds of Vikings here. Yeah, I think that's an excellent choice. You can see that those Liberator zones, man, they're so powerful. This fight was previously taken up, well, a few screens up north. And now, well, herO is being pushed all the way back down south. Okay. Adding on Stalkers, by the way, here. He probably realizes that he can't really win against the Viking production here, so he's decided, yo, I guess I'm hoping here again that my opponent decides to overmake Vikings. Ghosts are also hitting the battlefield once more. Good movement here by ByuN, though. Yeah, he really needs to start mining this base once again. I wouldn't mind seeing all of the orbital commands land and just throw a round of mules there. Obviously, you need to make sure you have a bunch of scans available, but over the course of this game, you can see right now, herO's production is skyrocketing compared to ByuN's. Well, that can change very rapidly as well when those mules start once again hitting the mineral fields. Anyway, yeah, he's a little bit afraid. Obviously, he doesn't know how many Dark Templar, for example, could be warped in here at any given moment. And he's currently kind of low on gas in particular. Nice purification over there, dealing a lot of damage. Liberator zone once again in the bottom left-hand corner. And, well, the recall right now is going to bring all of those units over here. So I think what Mr. herO wants to do is just go for a bulldozer move. This base over here is now mined out, so it's irrelevant. Yeah, at this point, ByuN scans for it, he realizes it, and he immediately maneuvers his army down south as well. Has herO successfully managed to cut off ByuN here from his own natural? Because that's effectively what he's trying to do. Still a lot of Liberators, though, up in the air. Disruptor coming in for the flank as well, but I don't think that's going to happen since it was not controlled properly. A lot of units actually get misrallied here. Now suddenly, herO is finding himself in the Terran's natural expansion, but he's got a massive army. That Purification Nova was really nice as well. Carriers are starting to run relatively low on the hit points here, but they're still alive and kicking, and as long as they are full, yeah, the Interceptors obviously can continuously deal damage. This is going to be in a very expensive trade. Nice pickup right there, though, by ByuN, keeping as many of these units alive. And with all of those air units out of the equation right now, he decides to land the Vikings. Okay. All things considered, though, I actually don't... I don't hate it right there for herO. I think that was very clever. He basically traded out his units, knowing very well that he must have way more money in the bank right now than his opponent does. The only problem is that he does not have a lot of gas, and he can warp in, well, a whole lot of zealots if he wants to. That's nice and all. Nice little bit of micro here on that planetary fortress. Eventually, though, the command center does end up falling. Marines and Marauders are going to be the name of the game once again here for ByuN, who, again, doesn't have a lot of income. He's going to reestablish this with another one of his command centers. This is like the mythological Hydra, you know, where you cut off one of its heads and it just grows back 3 more. This is basically what ByuN's been doing with command centers throughout the game. Big zealot run by over here. Yeah, I think we just spend our money here on basic units once again. Just disruptors and stalkers and zealots. I really wouldn't mind seeing it. There's an additional 10 zealots coming up. Are we only actually on 10 gateways? Yeah, we're on 10 gateways here. I think actually having some more here would have been really sweet. Okay. Purification Nova's trying to do some damage. Vikings now apparently accepting their lot as they're just sitting on the floor. Zealots here going to town, though, and they really want to be breaking into this expansion, or into this main base, rather, of ByuN. If you can get on top of all of the production, right? We see this very commonly with Zerglings in particular. If you can get on top of the production, you can slice it around with these zealots until, well, all of those reinforcing units end up going down. Mass repair over here, but this is not a planetary fortress. This is an orbital command, so ByuN's not going to be able to keep a lot of his SCVs alive here, and now I think the command center is still going to fall regardless. Brilliant game right here by herO. Normally, herO is the type of guy who plays a very aggressive early game, but in this match, we can see that herO is a master tactician in the late game as well.